In recent months, President Donald Trump has repeatedly suggested the idea of Canada becoming the 51st state of the United States. This proposal has been met with strong opposition from Canadian leaders and the public. Tonight, airlines brace for a slowdown as Canadians cancel trips to the U.S. The trust is gone. Why would a Canadian want to go to the United States right now? The tariff backlash is already being felt south of the border. We're about 40% less over last year, and the calls for a patriotic display for Flag Day are growing. We're not going to America. We're not spending our money there. It's Canada first, baby. On social media, Canadians are loud and proud about boycotting trips to the U.S. Lights, accommodation, Michelle Porter is among them. She had a Florida trip for herself and 6 family members all booked. But Donald Trump's tariff threats changed everything. I just canceled it. Canceled a 2-week vacation, including flights, accommodations, and Disney World tickets. Thanks to insurance, she got most of her money back, but she lost about $1,300 US and says she has no regrets. As Canadians, we need to stick together in unity, and I raise my children to feel the same and be proud Canadians. Millions of Canadians are canceling their U.S. travel plans and boycotting tourism in a powerful response to Trump's tariffs, with major destinations feeling the impact and Canadian patriotism surging. This backlash could cost the U.S. billions and reshape North American tourism in the future. The controversy ignited when President Trump announced plans to impose 25% tariffs on most Canadian goods, with oil, gas, and electricity taxed at 10%. This announcement came as part of a broader trade dispute involving Canada, Mexico, and China. The tariffs were initially set to take effect on February 4, 2025, but were paused for 30 days following last-minute negotiations between Trump and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The situation escalated when Trump made provocative comments about making Canada the 51st state, further straining diplomatic relations. In response, Prime Minister Trudeau imposed retaliatory 25% tariffs on U.S. goods, including dairy products from Wisconsin, oranges from Florida, and bourbon from Kentucky, on February 3, 2025. Trudeau delivered a solemn 13-minute televised speech urging Canadians to choose Canada and reconsider their travel plans to the U.S. He stated, "There are many ways for you to do your part. It might mean checking the labels at the supermarket and picking Canadian-made products. It might mean opting for Canadian rye over Kentucky bourbon, or for going with Florida orange juice altogether. It might mean changing your summer vacation plans to stay here in Canada and explore the many national and provincial parks, historical sites, and tourist destinations our great country has to offer." This sentiment was echoed by David E., Premier of British Columbia, who said Canadians should really be thinking carefully about spending their money in that country, as the U.S. wants to do economic harm to Canadians. The impact of these statements on public sentiment has been significant, sparking a wave of Canadian patriotism and a widespread boycott of U.S. travel and goods. Social media platforms are flooded with Canadians sharing their decisions to cancel U.S. trips and choose domestic or alternative international destinations. A poll conducted by Narrative Research in the Maritime Provinces revealed that 62% of respondents plan to travel less to the U.S. in the coming year, up from 37% in December 2024. The reasons cited for this change included dissatisfaction with Trump's leadership, 54%, safety concerns and fear of violence, crime, and gun culture, 35%, and a desire to financially boycott U.S. goods in opposition to Trump's economic policies, 35%. The travel industry is already feeling the effects of this boycott. Flight Centre, Canada's largest travel agency, reported a surge of customers canceling U.S. vacations and rebooking elsewhere. Amra Dakovich from Flight Centre stated, "Canadians are taking a stand in solidarity. They're showing Americans, or rather the U.S. administration, where they're going to spend their tourism dollars." Dakovich added that Flight Centre has already helped Canadians change U.S. travel plans and rebook elsewhere, including bucket list and milestone experiences valued at $2,000 or more. She noted that Canadians are resilient, resourceful, and proud to support the things they believe in. The impact is being felt across various travel sectors. The cruise industry, a popular choice for Canadian travelers, is seeing significant cancellations. One Canadian Threads user reported canceling an Alaska cruise, stating, "Beautiful Vancouver Island, British Columbia. I am a proud Canadian. This is how close we are to the USA, the country we always thought of as our friends and neighbors. I'm hoping this can turn around, but rest assured, we won't forget." Once bitten, twice shy, Canada's strong travel agencies are adjusting too. "We've looked at our numbers, and we're about 40% less over last year, 40% fewer bookings to the US for leisure travel," one official said. Customers are also questioning flying with US airlines at all. One Canadian couple, now selling their property in California, remarked, "When we go down there to finalize the sale, we'll be flying out of Toronto on a Canadian airline. It's not necessarily cheaper for us, but I'm intentionally avoiding anything I can that's going to put money in the pockets of that system. And even if the tariffs never materialize," one person stated, "I will not go to the United States as long as Donald Trump is in power." It isn't just Michelle Porter. A survey released this week found nearly half of Canadian travelers were less likely to visit the US. Of course, this is part of a broader movement among Canadians, from buying Canadian groceries, to pouring California wine down the drain, to booing the American national anthem. Since Trump announced that 25% tariff, Canadians are looking for ways to voice their displeasure with the US administration. Tomorrow, we may see another display of patriotism, with former prime ministers and politicians encouraging Canadians to fly a Canadian flag. Another Canadian cruiser shared on Reddit, "My wife and I had planned a cruise in October, leaving from Vancouver, sailing to Hawaii for 6 days before coming back to the mainland of San Diego, with an extra few days spent there, before we flew back to Vancouver Island, due to Trump's tariffs and the trade war. We will not be spending the thousands of tourist dollars in the States any longer." Theme parks and popular U.S. destinations are also affected. Amanda L. Smith told CBC News that she canceled a planned 2-week trip to Disneyland and Universal Studios, opting instead for a road trip to Mexico. She explained, "We have always been a family that thought of ourselves as allies to those who consider themselves in the minority category." The top 5 most visited states by Canadians, Florida, California, Nevada, New York, and Texas, are expected to see significant declines in retail and hospitality revenue. In Florida alone, Canadians made up 38% of all foreign tourists in 2023, according to Visit Florida. As Canadians shift their travel patterns, there's an increased interest in domestic tourism and alternative international destinations. Dakovich noted a rise in bookings to Canada's East Coast, Mexico, Portugal, and Antigua. The economic implications for the U.S. are potentially severe. The U.S. Travel Association has warned that even a 10% reduction in Canadian travel could result in 2 million fewer visits, $2.1 billion in lost spending, and 14,000 job losses. This is particularly concerning given that Canada is the top source of international visitors to the U.S., with 2.4 million visits in 2024 generating $20.5 billion in spending and supporting 140,000 American jobs. Specific U.S. states and industries are bracing for impact. In Texas, Canada is the second largest international visitor market, driving $43.3 million in travel spending in 2023. Val Peacock, chair of the Municipal Council in Bar Harbor, Maine, expressed concern about the potential impact on her town, which is linked to Nova Scotia by the Cat Ferry. She stated, "It does make me sad on a personal level. Bar Harbor is a big tourism spot in Maine, and what is going to happen to our economy and to individual people? We don't know the long-term consequences." U.S.-Canada relations remain uncertain. The situation has already strained diplomatic ties, with potential implications for trade agreements like NAFTA. The global perception of this dispute could also have far-reaching effects on international relations and trade dynamics. For Canada, the situation presents both challenges and opportunities. While the tourism industry may see a boost in domestic travel, Canadian airlines and travel agencies are grappling with the shift in demand. Porter Airlines reported some softening of select U.S. leisure markets, but noted increased bookings for routes within Canada. One official stated that 75% of their peak summer capacity is now for routes within Canada. There is also the opportunity for more Americans to visit Canada to benefit from the exchange rate. WestJet Airlines stated that they are actively reviewing and working with the Government of Canada on the potential impacts of tariffs and related countermeasures. Air Canada said it continues to monitor the situation, but due to its fluidity, it is premature to comment. The business travel sector is also experiencing changes. A survey by YouGov found that 85% of Canadian small and mid-sized enterprises said U.S. tariffs or trade restrictions would decrease their cross-border corporate travel for trade and business activities. According to Dakovich, more than 34% of these businesses are looking at new markets, potentially signaling a shift in North American business dynamics in the short term. This situation has sparked debates about personal values and political stances among Canadian travelers. Jordan Danger, an Ottawa artist, told CBC News that she canceled her trip to the United States later this year as a matter of principle. Jason Dale, a 52-year-old high school teacher from Port Dover, Ontario, had been planning a family vacation to Tennessee for over a year along with two other families. They were set for a day road trip to Dollywood, the Titanic Museum attraction, and the Great Smoky Mountains. However, they've now scrapped those plans. Dale explained that the rhetoric about tariffs, the mockery of our Prime Minister, and the musing about the U.S. becoming the 51st state did it for all of them. Everyone was in agreement that we're going to keep our money in our own country. The Dale family's decision reflects a broader trend. Christine Gurr, founder of the motor coach tour company Maple Leaf Tours in Kingston, Ontario, reported that her business has already taken a 30% hit in cancellations for U.S. packages this year, which include destinations like Nashville, Washington, and Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Meanwhile, Chinese goods will be hit with an additional 10% tariff. These measures are all expected to kick in as of February 3rd. The president is warning that Americans will feel a little short-term pain, but what he left out is that this pain comes on top of the steepest spike in inflation felt by this generation. The grocery store is likely to be the first place where most Americans feel the impact. I'm talking $46 billion worth of food items from Mexico alone. 20% of our fresh fruits and vegetables come from our southern neighbor. And it's not just avocados. Alcoholic beverages are also on the tariff hit list. I'm talking beer, tequila, and of course, your next new car is likely to be at least $3,000 more expensive. According to some estimates, you might think, because your automobile is made in the USA, you'll be immune. But even cars assembled within the border have dozens of parts made in Mexico and Canada. Anything you have to replace that contains steel will face higher tariffs, since Canada and Mexico will no longer be exempt from global steel tariffs. Home prices, which are already at or near record highs, will be impacted. 30% of the lumber used to build homes comes from our Canadian neighbors, while 71% of materials used in drywall are imported from Mexico. And that's just the impact of Mexico and Canadian tariffs. Chinese products are even more abundant inside and outside our homes, ranging from the things we cook and eat with, to what we wear on our feet and backs, and what our kids play with. Wall Street is in an uproar as the Trump Tariff War 2.0 begins. The impact is being felt on both sides of the border. New Jersey resident Monica Church received a cancellation from a Canadian couple for their month-long stay at her vacation rental in North Myrtle Beach. The couple cited the trade war as the reason for their cancellation. Church expressed understanding and admiration for the couple's commitment to Canadian solidarity, stating, "I'm a little jealous of that feeling, where you feel for your country so much that you band together, kind of like how everyone felt after September 11th. You felt proud to be an American. I haven't felt proud to be an American lately. I have a rainbow on my fanny pack, so am I now a walking target? I'm not part of the LGBTQ+ community, but I'm an ally. If I show my Canadianism just by the way I speak, is that going to put a target on my back?" These concerns are not one-sided. Church, who had been planning a road trip to Montreal and Quebec with her husband, now wonders if their American license plate could make them targets in Canada. The boycott is having a particularly significant impact on areas close to the US-Canada border. Tamara Bowden, a 41-year-old wedding photographer from Trail, British Columbia, lives just 10 miles from the US border. She explained that a typical weekend for many in her community might involve driving across the border for lunch at a Mexican restaurant and shopping at stores like Trader Joe's and Target. However, she stated, "That's not going to be how I spend my Saturday for sure, not for the next 4 years, at least." As the 30-day tariff pause diminishes, the future remains uncertain. Possible scenarios include a resolution of the trade dispute, leading to a normalization of travel patterns, or an escalation that could further damage bilateral relations in tourism. The long-term effects on travel patterns and economic ties between the two nations could be significant, potentially reshaping the North American tourism landscape for years to come. This boycott is not just about economics, it's about Canadians expressing their values through their travel choices. As one Canadian Reddit user, Infamous Course 4019, stated after canceling a cruise to Hawaii, "As Canadians, we can only show our support where we spend our money." As the 30-day pause on tariffs approaches its end, all eyes are on Washington and Ottawa. Will cooler heads prevail, leading to a resolution that allows for the resumption of normal travel patterns, or will this dispute escalate, potentially causing long-term damage to the US-Canada relationship and reshaping North American tourism for years to come? Whatever the outcome, this situation has already demonstrated the power of consumer choice in international relations. Millions of Canadians, through their travel decisions, are making their voices heard on the global stage. President Trump's decision to whack tariffs on American allies and rivals has sparked a weekend retaliation. Canada announced its own tariffs. Mexico warned of some of their own, and China is set to take their case to the World Trade Organization. But for the White House, it's time to double down. Trump's sweeping tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China have triggered an unprecedented global backlash. In a historic move, all three nations announced retaliatory measures, Canada hitting the US with $30 billion in tariffs, Mexico launching Plan B, and China vowing WTO action, with key US goods, energy supplies, and even automobiles at risk. Experts warn this could wipe out hundreds of billions from the global economy. And that's the latest on today's top stories. What are your thoughts? If you'd like to dive deeper into any of these topics or explore related issues, feel free to leave a comment. Thank you for tuning in and spending your time with us. Stay informed, stay curious, and we'll see you next time. Take care.